Hello everyone, I'm going to run through a game using this set of rules here called Packing Heat, which I discovered recently from the Eccentric Man's YouTube channel. I want to sort of be quite brief at the beginning here, but just to say that my original intention was to discuss the rules and then run through a game. So I filmed the discussion yesterday, and basically, what I said, which I'm now going to summarise in a matter of minutes rather than the 51 minutes that it took me yesterday, was that in comparison to the four Western games that I played several years ago, and compared all four, I think this set of rules comes out on top. It produced an absolutely fun game that I've run through one game already. Really enjoyed it. So I I think this is these are a really good set of rules. However, in that 51 minutes, virtually everything I had to say about the rule book itself was either mildly negative or extremely negative. I've got a lot of criticisms of the book, starting with it seems to have been proofread by AI or at best a spell checker. There are just so many typos, spelling mistakes. They're not spelling mistakes in that words are spelled incorrectly. They are spelling mistakes in that an incorrect word spelt correctly. So, for instance, there's a sentence in there in the hostage scenario where you place a figure on the table to resent a hostage rather than to represent a hostage, that kind of thing. If it happens once in a while, it's fine, but it's on every page. It gets really irritating in the end. But worse than that is that there are a great many errors. I ran through quite a few of them, but still, even in 51 minutes, I didn't include them all. I realised afterwards. And the worst thing of all, really, is that there is an index in the back of the book, which I usually really welcome, but in this case, I'm pretty sure the index has been compiled by AI as well, and it is useless. It is absolutely useless. And the pages all seem to be in a really peculiar order. So I'm not sure whether the what I think of as a misordering of the pages is deliberate or whether it was an accidental thing that happened. But the pages don't seem to be in. There doesn't seem to be a logical progression, put it that way, through the book. So if you want to look up a particular rule on something, it's hard to find it in the book just by flipping through the pages. And if you go to the index will guide you towards multiple pages that just don't really matter. So it's really hard to find something in the index. But I'm going to stop at that point because I've already made this introductory bit too long. But my point is that I'm not going to put that video the discussion part of the video into this video now because it's almost entirely negative, and you're not going to want to watch 51 minutes of me criticizing the rule book, when what I want you to see is the rules in operation themselves, and the game, which I can highly recommend. So, despite all the faults in the rulebook, I would suggest you go out and buy it and play games of this. If you're into, it's basically skirmishes in the Wild West, the Prohibition era, World War Two on modern streets. Okay, so I've set up a game. There's a little bit of preparation you have to do at the beginning. So you can have up to 12 figures aside. I've selected two suggested lists from the book, which are both equivalent of 54 points. So I've got 5 lawmen versus 7 outlaws there. You'll begin to see that this set of rules is very derivative of other Too Fat Lardy. It's not a Too Fat Lardy publication, but it's very derivative of Too Fat Lardy games, and the author acknowledges that, and acknowledges Rich Clark's contribution as well in the rulebook. So I've already rolled up for the morale. The outlaws are red, the lawmen are blue, and you have to really keep a record of each individual figure, because they're armed differently, they have different ranks, different abilities, different traits and so on. So I've taken the time to take pictures of each of the figures, give them a number. Each one's got a number. So I've got 7 outlaws, 5 lawmen, and it'll be, the rules will make sense to you if you're familiar with Too Fat Lardy rules in particular, but I'm not going to really explain the rules, I'm just going to play the game, so let's get on with it. Okay, I'm playing a version of the smash and grab scenario. So normally you'd play this game on a 3 foot squared surface. I'm playing on a 4 foot by 3 surface. So I've kind of modified it a little bit because that extra foot does add to the difficulties for the outlaws. So rather than the outlaws having to grab the loot, which in this particular scenario is hidden in the bank, not hidden, it's in the bank there, they don't have to get back off their home edge. All they have to do is get to this livery stable here, which is about a foot into the table, and then I'm pretending that they have their horses in there and that they will ride out of town with the loot. Right, let's show you how it works. So you can either play with cards. I'm playing with tokens, which I have in a bag. I've got my own dice bag, as it were, but might as well make use of one of the 2 bags that comes with the rules. Okay, so the first token I have drawn is a blue star. So that's not activating a particular player, but that's held by the law side. Second one is number 3, which is Theophilus Salter, a bandit. Okay, now there are various jump off points on the table. I think I'm going to place him in a jump off point that I've positioned in the livery stable. Okay, so that red disc there represents the outlaw's jump off point in the livery stable right by the doors. So appearing is 1 activation, so that's his first activation, is to actually appear on the table. Now you get 2 activations per activation. You get 2 actions per activation. So his next activation, I'm going to get him to move out into the corral there where the horses are. So I rolled a d6, he's rolled a 5, so he can move 5 inches out into the open. Okay, there he is out in the corral. I'll explain as I go along, but basically, I put some horses on the table. They're going to behave a little bit like civilians, um, but I'm kind of making up my own rules for the horses, so they're not going to do anything at this point in the game. Okay, next out of the bag is a red star, so I'm going to put that on the outlaws end of the table, and then another red star. Now that gives the outlaws 2 stars, which you can begin to spend. You could use 2 stars to activate a player, a figure that hasn't already been activated, but it's quite early in the turn so far, so I'm just going to hold on to that. But if I draw one more star, then 3 stars in a row generates a random event. So let's see what the next one is, and it's number 7. So we're going to activate outlaw number 7. Okay, so the outlaws have a second jump off point in the attorney at law and dentist building here, and you can put figure within 3 inches of that. So I put the next figure, D Snares, at the top of those steps there, and that's his first activation. And in order to go downstairs, or ladders, you just expend 1 movement dice. So effectively, his next action is to move down the steps. Next down to the bag then is player number 5, all the outlaws at the moment. So outlaw number 5. Okay, so outlaw number 5, whose name is Bank Stilson. It's going to appear from the other jump off point. He only rolled a 1, so he could I could have moved him a little bit further, to be honest, because you're allowed to place the figure within 3 inches of the jump off point. So I'm going to put Bank Stilson about there. Next out of the bag was the blue 4 token, which is the lawman, the deputy. I think his name's Alan Borlier. So the lawmen have 3 jump off points, one of which I thought it was quite appropriate to put in the sheriff's office on the ground floor. So I'm lift off here. You can't actually see it because it's hidden by the wall, but there's a jump off point there. So I'm going to place the figure just by the open door there, and then his next move will be, let's move the camera around a little bit so you can see. Okay, his next move is going to be to try and get to the foot of the stairs. Same thing going upstairs, you have to expend an action dice. So he rolls 6 inches, so that's plenty to get him to the foot of the stairs. I'll mention at this point as well some of the other rules that the lawmen have to abide by a code, so they're not allowed to be the first to. So sorry, it went out of focus there with me. They're not allowed to make the first shot. They can still make arrests, but they're not allowed to start the gunfire. So they have to wait for the outlaws to actually open fire. What I've decided is that if the outlaws haven't commenced firing by the time they get into the bank, going into the kind of restricted area of the bank, in other words, the bit behind the till and in the bank vault itself, that will be considered a hostile act, which would allow the lawman to begin shooting. Okay, so and the other thing I'll tell you at this point is that some rules you have 360-degree vision, but in this particular set of rules, skirmish rules, the facing of the figure is important because they only have a 45-degree arc of fire. Okay, next taken out of the bag was number 2 blue, so that is Fremont Gunnels, who is armed with a sniper rifle and is a Deadeye, which gives him quite a few, sort of accuracy traits. So there's a third, as I say, the lawmen have 3 jump off points. There's one here, again you can't see it from your camera point of view, so he is going to position himself inside the building, and then what I want him to do is to go to one of the front windows here, so he's got a commanding view of the street. So he rolls 6 inches, so he has plenty of movement up to a window, and if I'm careful not to damage anything, I can actually get him in the right place. Can actually get him to point his rifle out of the building. Now, as I say, positioning is important, so he's kind of pointing in that direction. There's a token left in there from a previous game that I'm going to remove while I think of it, in case it confuses things later. Just drawn another blue star out of the bag, so both sides have 2 star tokens on the table. I don't think at this early part of the game it's worth spending them to activate a player who has not been activated yet, because basically all the figures are just going to come on the table, at their jump off points, so there's no advantage to be gained by activating them in any particular order, I don't think. Okay, next one out the bag, is the cut. Okay, right, now that means that that turn is over, but what you can do, instead of spending 1 star now, you can spend, instead of spending 2 stars now to activate a player who hasn't been activated, you can spend 1 star to activate a player who hasn't been activating, and you take it in turns, starting with the faction that has the highest morale, which is the lawmen. So I'm just going to have a think about that now off camera and then show you what my decisions are. Okay, so first blue star I'm going to spend on activating the deputy, forget his name at the moment, who is armed with a shotgun, and he is going to start from the jump off point, which is in the bank there, but instead of going out, he is going to make his way through. I'm not considering the doors to be locked or an additional hindrance. It'll kind of complicate things, so he is going to, but the only difference is that he can go through these doors, okay, but once an outlaw does, that marks the beginning of hostilities, as it were. Okay, so I'm just going to roll a dice for him, see how far he can get into the actual bank vault itself. Another rule that will come into play in these restricted, 2 rules that will come into play in these restricted circumstances are: you can't move up to an enemy figure. You can't move up to less than an inch within an enemy figure without initiating a melee. So in other words, if he stands by a door, or he stands by that door there, the outlaws are either going to have to shoot at him or fight him, so he's acting as kind of guard effectively. Okay, so he's only rolled 3 inches, so he's not going to get very far. The other rule I was going to say, inside any building, regardless of what furniture I've got in there, I'm treating it as light cover. If you're in a building and being shot at from outside, it's hard cover. If your figures are shooting at one another inside a building, it's light cover, and out on the road, obviously it's open. Okay, so 3 inches is only going to get him. Where's the door? That's the working door there. So 3 inches is going to get him to about there. Okay, so the Outlaws have used the star to activate their ringleader, Carl Talbot, who rolled a 6, so he's moved 9 inches from the jump-off point. The gates and doors I'm not treating as obstacles, so he didn't have to negotiate climbing over the gate or anything. He simply went through it, which is why he's on that side of the gate there. And I think from the point of view of the lawmen, it's their turn now. They're going to use the final star that they've got to activate their leader, who is also going to come out of the sheriff's office, I think, and head straight out as far as he can, out right down the middle of the road. Okay, so there is the sheriff, the leader of the law side. Lackey Schaeferson is his name. What I'm going to sort of set up here is he's just boldly walking down the high street now. He knows there's trouble brewing, so he's out on patrol. And the other figure that I brought on, you may not be able to see him from this angle. Now let's turn the camera around a little bit. Yeah, the final figure that I brought on from the Outlaws is this guy here, who is like a gunslinger type of, he's a gunslinger called Emmett Nevitt. So I'm going to sort of set up a little bit of a confrontation in the middle of the high street here. So they're going to face up to one another somewhere around here. As I say though, shots won't be fired by anyone until the Outlaws begin to open fire. So it's not in their interest to begin a gunfight till they've got hold of the loot in the bank, because they want as much opportunity as possible to get the loot away. They don't want to be shot at too soon in the game. Okay, so customers in the saloon are beginning to form a small crowd outside. They can sense something outside the saloon. They can sense something is in the air. And all the tokens are gone back in the bag now, and we start to draw afresh. So the first token we're going out is a red star. The second token we bring out is a blue star. So one more, and a random event will be generated. The third one we draw out. It is a star. Okay, so because the last figure to be activated was the gunslinger, he just moved. So you roll on a random event table, but it's a neutral random event. So you roll 2 dice. I've rolled a 10 in total, and the neutral event is Butterfingers. The model drops their melee weapons if they have one. Unless they spend their next activation picking it up again, they gain none of its benefits until the scene ends. So luckily, Emmett Nevitt doesn't have any melee weapons. He's just got things like axes, knives, that kind of thing, cudgels. That event seems like it's more suited towards Prohibition type era type of weaponry. So nothing happens as a result of that random event. Okay, so we draw another dice out, a token out of the bag, which is number 1, which is the sheriff that you can see at the end of the table there. Right, so he has decided to move twice. So both his actions are going to be to move. He's rolled a total of 9 inches. So he's just going to head straight for the centre of the high street there. Stand there and dominate it. Next out of the bag is blue number 3. Blue number 3 is the deputy with the shotgun. His name is Otti Zanin. So I'm going to move him as close as I can with the first action at any rate in there. So he's right by that door, blocking the door, armed with a shotgun. Is going to make life very difficult for any outlaws trying to get in there to steal the loot. So he rolls 5 inches, so that would get him through here, probably to about here. So need to move him a little bit further. So his second action is going to move again. He moves 4 inches in this case, which is plenty to get him right where we want him there. And he's facing, I think I have him facing slightly that way, so that he can fire at anyone coming through that door. I've just drawn another star, and I've drawn another star, so that's 2 in a row. And next, number 4, blue 4. Blue 4 is the deputy who's already on the table, Alan Bourlier here, who's at the foot of the stairs. So he is going to move twice. First movement is to spend a dice to climb the steps, and then he rolls 3 inches, which is sufficient to get him through the door. So he's now in the building in hard cover, but he has a view out onto the street. So I'm going to put him like that, sort of facing that way, so his arc of fire kind of covers the area in front of the bank there. Right, I drew a red star, then a blue star, but the third taken out of the bag was red number 5, which is Bank Stilson here. So I'm going to get him to try and go round the back of the houses, and maybe even into the back door of the bank rather than the front. Let's see. So he's got to move first of all. His first action is going to be move, and he only rolls 2 inches. So his second is a move as well, which is 5 inches. So he's got a total of 7. So that would take him up to the fence, but the fence is an obstacle, unlike the gate. So he has to stop there and use up another action dice to actually go over the fence. And it's not worth, you can sprint, that allows you to roll an additional dice, but you gain a point of shock to do that. So I'm not going to, encumber him with shock tokens this early in the game. So next out of the bag is number 3 red, which is Theophilus Sauter, who I think I recognise that name. Yeah, he is on the table somewhere. What did I do with him? He's right there in front of the camera. So he is going to do something similar. He's going to try and work his way around the back of the houses. So his first action is going to have to be a move 2 inches. Won't get him up to the fence, unfortunately. And he gets him to about there, so he's going to have to move again 1 inch. So we'll be kind to him and say he's actually up against the fence, but he didn't move very far at all. Okay, so that was number red 3. Next out of the bag is red 4, which is Widden's Lees, another bandit armed with a rifle. He hasn't come on the table yet, so I think we'll say he's coming in on that same jump off point in there. So one action is to move, is to appear, so he can move. He rolls a 4, so he can be 7 inches in total away from the jump off point, which will take him kind of just behind the other 2 characters there. You can move as a group, actually. I have to look up the rules again for that. Can't do it in this turn with that now, but I might move them as a group later. Yeah, because most of the outlaws are only rank 1. They can command one other figure within a proximity of 2 inches, but it's not brilliant, so might have to think about that. Okay, and then the next dice out the bag. Oh, it's another outlaw. Red number 6, which is Bandit Rice McGee, who is the final outlaw to come on the table. I think in his case, we're going to start him off from the other jump off point. Okay, so he has appeared within 3 inches of the jump off point, which is just behind the door there. So his other action is going to go down the steps, where you can move through other figures, so I think it's fair enough to say they're both kind of occupying this more or less the same spot there. Makes sense. You're allowed to move through friendlies because they're assumed to make way for one another. So next out of the bag is blue number 5. Oh, that's good. It's the last figure not to be put on the table, which is Deputy Darius Munro. So I know exactly what I'm going to do with him. Okay, so Darius Munro appeared on the table, which is one action from the jump off point in the foyer of the bank, and then moved through sufficiently to get to that spot just outside. So he's in the open, he's not in cover of any form now, but he's just outside that door, meaning he's guarding that door effectively. So the outlaws are going to have to tackle him if they, shoot him down or fight him in melee if they want to get into the bank. Okay, now it's getting close to the cut being drawn, the cut card being drawn. I think that difficult. I've got 4 blue stars, so that would allow the law to activate a player who has already been activated, but there's no need really. Yeah, so I'll stop thinking about it because I've got the lawman figures where I want, and I could spend 2 to activate a figure who hasn't been activated. No, let's stop fussing and just draw one out the bag. So it's a blue star. I think you can see there. So the blue have now got all. They began with 5 stars, so they've got all their stars out on the table now. So they're going to kind of waste them, really, if the cut comes up. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, next token out of the bag is red number 1, which is the ringleader of the outlaws. Okay, so Carl Talbot, the outlaw ringleader, moved twice. He only moved 6 inches in total, so he is now there. He is not allowed to come within 1 inch of a civilian unless he's got the blend in trait, which none of them have, or within 1 inch of an enemy figure without initiating a melee. But where he is at the moment, he's fine. Okay, so we'll, rather than think about spending any of those stars, I think I'm just going to draw another token out the bag, which is another star. So that allows me to, before I draw another dice out of the bag, that would allow me to activate a figure who's already been activated if I wanted to. Right, I'm going to hold fire on that, draw another token out the bag. Red number 2, which is Emmett Nevitt. Right, now, show you what I'm going to do with him. I've got a plan for him. Okay, so Emmett Nevitt is just here, just behind the fence, but he's by the gate, so he's going to move twice. He's rolled 10 inches. So he is simply going, the scenery over. He is simply going to move to about there. I think you can you see that on the, yeah. So he is going to have a showdown with the sheriff at some point during the game. But what I have in mind now is before the next token is drawn out the bag, either player can, either player can determine to activate a player who was already activated. So, let's take you back over the other side of the table. All these 3 figures here have rank 1. So I can activate, I think they've all moved. Yeah, I think they've all been activated this time. So I'm going to activate, say, this one, who's going to spend both his actions to initiate a group action. Now he's only got a rank of 1, which means he can only get 1 follower to go with him. And again, it doesn't matter for the figure that's being activated as the group member, doesn't count as an action, so he's allowed a second move as well, if you see what I mean. So they're both going to just spend their group move to go over the fence. So they've expended their movement dice just climbing over the fence. And I think that's a sensible thing to do, because the dice bag is running very low, so it's going to be the cut soon. So I'm feeling in the bag now to draw the next one out. Oh, and it's number 7, which is D Snares. Okay, now D Snares is this figure here. I want him up the table along the back of these houses. Maybe even, although he doesn't really know that lawman is in there with the sniper rifle, maybe even get him into that building, try and pick off the sniper. So I am going to, in this case, both these actions are going to be moves, but I'm going to sprint him on both of those actions, which means he'll pick up 2 shock. But it means I'm rolling 4 dice and he'll move that number of inches in that direction. So he has rolled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 11 inches, which isn't brilliant, but it is. So it gets him to there. But as I say, he now has 2 shock, so I'm going to put some tokens against him to demonstrate that. Okay, so I'm using these skull MDF tokens to represent shock. There are tokens that come with this game. I have bought some, but there aren't any denoting shock. And I think the reason for that is I've discovered you need lots and lots of them. So it's far too many to print out. So you could even keep a paper record of it, but I think it's easier to have something on the table. So I'm using my skull markers there. Okay, so another draw then. We must be getting close. I can only feel, there's only 2 tokens I can feel in the bag. So I'm drawing out the cut. Yeah, so the only one that didn't get chosen in that turn unactivated is number 2. So the lawman have got, the law side have got stars remaining, so they could activate number 2, which is the sniper, but he's in the right position, he's where I want him to be, so there's no point, and there's nothing else to do. 2 shock on D snares is equivalent to his guts. If he gets 1 more, he would be shaken. If he got more than double, he would be broken, and at this point he would come off the table. So there's nothing to do in terms of that. So it's all the tokens back in the bag, back onto the next turn. Okay, now first token to come out of the bag in the next turn is number 5, which is this guy here, Banks Stilson. So as I interpret the rules, and I think this is correct, he can spend both his actions to make another group move, so he can take that guy with him again, but that doesn't count as that chap being activated. All it does is prevents both of those figures from taking part in another group action this turn. So in other words, I can move these 2, but when I draw this guy's taken out of the bag, he can move again. So a group move, they move 3 inches, which again is not rolling particularly high dice today, but it might give that chap with the rifle a little bit of a bonus move. So 3 inches only really takes them to about there, and you have to spend both of your action dice to make a group move. So that's that activation done. Next out of the bag, red number 4, which is oh yeah, it's not that chap, it's this chap here. So he's going to do his best. He has to move up to the fence, so he rolls 2 inches, which takes him up to the fence, and then spends another action dice climbing the fence, so that's his turn over. And then next out of the bag is green number 3, which is the guy with the shotgun standing outside the safe. So I'm not going to activate him. Now, you can go on Overwatch, but the police conduct rule for the lawman, it would mean that you're kind of obliged to shoot at anything that you see within your field of view. So he can't go on Overwatch even, because he's not allowed to be the first to initiate fire. So that's his token kind of wasted for this turn, really. Okay, next one out is red number 2, which is the gunslinger Emmett Nevitt. Who is there? So in his case, I don't want him to, you have, unless you declare it, you have to move the full distance that you roll. So I want him to go up, but not within an inch of the sheriff, otherwise he starts a melee and he's not allowed to do that. So I roll a dice, but I want him to stop there, say, at the most. So he's rolled a 4 inch, which would take him to that point, and then he's going to defer on his second activation. So that's his turn over. Next out of the bag is a red star. Next out of the bag is a blue star. So one more and there's a random event. Next out the bag is red number 1. Okay, so red number 1 is Carl Talbot, the ringleader. So he has got space to move towards the bank the full distance without coming in within an inch of any civilians or enemy. So I'm just going to roll 2 dice for him. He's rolled 12, which would take him very close indeed to the entrance of the bank. In fact, he's off the camera there, I'll show you there. So I think gunfire is going to commence quite soon because he's got to clear that guy out of the way if he wants to enter the bank. So the gunfighting is about to begin, I think, or fairly soon. I've just drawn 2 stars followed by blue number 2, who again is the sniper at that window there. So I don't want to activate him. So next up is blue number 5, which is the guy outside the bank, front bank door of the bank. So again, don't want to do anything with him. Next out of the bag is a red star, followed by red number 7, which is D. Snayers, the guy who's creeping up the back of the other side of the street. Okay, so I have to keep an eye on those shot markers, so I think what I'll do, you can expend 1 action rallying so you can take a shot marker off. So I'll leave 1 on and then move him. Rolls of 5, so he moves just in between the saloon and the outside lavatory there. And you have to remember to keep that shot marker on him. So I've just drawn a blue star followed by a red star. So if this next draw is a star as well, a random event will be generated centered on that character there, who was the last to move, and it is a blue star. So put that in the right place before I lose it. So once again, the outlaws, the law have got all 5 stars out. I have to roll on the neutral random event table. If I can find it. I think that's what I was saying at the beginning of this book, that they're not in, I don't think they've been printed on the QRF. Random events. No, they're not on the random. That would be useful to have them on the quick reference sheet, because there are 3 pages, so you can print 2 double-sided, sheets and have them there handy. Here we go. Right, neutral random events. I'm rolling 2 dice and I've rolled 6, and 6 is go, go, go. This sounds good. The model sees an opportunity for their squad to advance. Their player picks the nearest friendly jump off and places it behind the nearest cover. Friendly jump off and places it behind the nearest. Yeah, that would have been very handy if I had any figures to place on the table, but I don't think I might as well move something in case it affects the game later on, but I don't think that's going to have any effect on the game. So, as I say, I don't think that's going to influence the game in any way now. It's too late, but I've moved the nearest jump-off marker from inside that building there to inside the saloon here. Next out of the bag is a red star. Now, before I draw one out of the bag then, I am going to use 4 red stars to activate a player who has already been activated, which is this guy. So I'm going to take the 4 red stars off the table, put them back in the discard pile, use 1 action to remove that other shock, and then use the other action to move him, and he's rolled 6, so he can move another 6 inches up the table, which is ideal. So that gets him to the far corner of the saloon. So he is now there. Okay, so just drawn blue number 1, which is the sheriff. So I think at this point he's not allowed to open fire, but he is allowed in the rules to make an arrest. But in order to make an arrest, this figure here has to be down on the ground. When a figure is down on the ground, the enemy can either execute them or arrest them, but in the case of lawmen, they're not allowed to execute, they have to make an arrest. So the way you do it is to move into that model and then forego melee, so they're not actually going to be fighting, but attempt to tackle him, forcing them both to the ground. So in other words, he's in this scenario, he knows something's up, he can see all these henchmen moving towards the bank, so he's going to arrest the gunslinger. So rolling on a d6 on a table, I've rolled 3, which is the target is pushed 1 inch away from the attacker. Oh, hang on, sorry, that should have been the movement dice. So that 3 is moving into contact. And then I roll on the d6 table, and I've rolled a 2, which is he's missed. The attacker moves back 1 inch and he's down, so he's failed to tackle. So he gets moved back 1 inch. And I don't like putting figures down, you know, the rules say do that. I don't like that, I think it looks scruffy. And also they do supply markers, you know, a downed marker. It's generically from Open Emoji or something like that. I don't think they're terribly good, their tokens. But that does signify downed. So at the moment, the sheriff is down. And that's the end of his activation because of that. Next out of the bag is red number 3, which is Theophilus Sauter, who has moved in that group action, but as I was saying earlier, he isn't deemed to have been activated this turn, even though he has been able to move. So I'm going to move him as far as I can up the other side of the table towards the bank. So he's rolling 2 movement dice. He's rolled 11 inches. Brilliant. So that will get him. You can move through friendly figures. That gets him all the way. I think it's off camera. Yeah, it's off camera. He's moved so far. All the way to the back door of the sheriff's office. So he's got the option of either going through that building or carrying on moving and maybe going through the back door of the bank. Have to think about that. Red number 6 came next, and all he's done, he didn't roll terribly well. He's moved from there to there, and that's the end of his turn. That was 2 movements. Okay, next out the bag is cut. So, let me see what I can do. Right, now the law side haven't used any of their stars. They are now allowed to spend 1 star per unactivated figure. They can't at this stage use 4 stars to activate the figure that has already been activated. So the only figure on the law side who hasn't been activated this turn, it was the only token left in the bag, is number 4, who is the guy at the top of the stairs there. Can you see that? No, he's kind of hidden. He's there. So I don't think he's in a terribly good position now. So he is going to, mind you, he would be in a good position to fire on. Yeah, I'm going to leave him where he is. Because he has got a commanding view over the main road, not the chap that's coming in the back. So that is the end of that turn. Unfortunately, all those stars get wasted. New turn then. First taken out the bag is red number 3, which is Theophilus Salter, who's, where is he? The chap behind the sheriff's office. Just there. So I think he is going to go for the back door of the bank. So he's going to run, or not run, move twice. He's rolled a 7. Not brilliant. I'll get him to about there, I reckon. Just there. Next out the bag is red number 6. Sorry, out of focus, but let's take my word for it. That is Bandit Rice McGee, who is the chap over here. This chap just here. He is going to move twice as well. He has rolled 5. Oh, gosh. This is one of the reasons I was saying at the beginning why I'm using a 4-foot table. So I've made it slightly easier to get off the table. Put the exit point further in, because it does seem to take a long time to progress anywhere. Rolling low dice like that. Okay, and then next out of the bag is the cut. Right, now there are no stars out to spend. No one is over there. Shock limit, no one's broken, so there's nothing to do but put all the dice back in the bag and start a new turn. It just happens that way sometimes. Okay, so I'm mixing all the takes, shaking them up in the bag again, and the first one out the bag is a red star. Second one out the bag is the cut again. Right, so that means this time the outlaws can activate someone who hasn't moved. I know exactly what I'm going to do. Someone who hasn't been activated. Right, the time has come to start the shooting. So the ringleader there, I can activate him with the single star that the outlaws have got. So he he has 2 actions, so he can fire twice at the deputy in the doorway there. And note also that there is a civilian within 6 inches of him. Now, not entirely sure how to play this, because there is usually the civilian will just run away. There is a possibility that they intervene and try and tackle the shooter, but it's a little old lady, so I don't know how realistic it is to expect her to grapple with the ringleader of the outlaw gang. Let's see if that happens anyway. Okay, so the ringleader is armed with what the rules describe as dual pistols. Now, they don't have a short range, they only have an effective range, which is up to 9 inches, so it's well within effective range. They can roll 2 dice, I believe. I've got a quick reference sheet. 4 dice, beg your pardon. Yeah, so he's rolling 4 dice. He needs 5s to hit, but he gets, because he has no shock, he gets +1 to his dice roll. And he's using also what they describe as a spray weapon rather than a strike weapon. So there's a possibility with spray weapons that he might hit something in his arc of fire, but there is only that deputy in his arc of fire, so that's not come into play this turn. So I'll tell you what I've rolled. I've rolled really badly, 2 1s and 2 3s. So even with +1, he doesn't get to hit. But here, that was his first action, so he's got a second action, so he's going to try that again. This time, much better. He's got 6, which is an automatic hit, and a 4, which goes up to 5. So he's got 2 hits. Now, had he been using a strike weapon such as a rifle, that 6 would have automatically conferred a shock onto the target, but it's a spray weapon, so it doesn't. Okay, now the target is in the open, but so he has to try and save those 2 hits, and if he rolls a 1, he has saved them, but otherwise he's either acquires a shock or an injury. And he has rolled a 3 and a 6, so he's got 1 shock, 1 injury. That means the injury imparts a shock on him as well, so he now has 2 shocks, but he has to roll once on the injury table. Right, there we are, so I've placed 2 shock markers next to him. Now I'm rolling a d6 on the injury table, and he's rolled a 3, which is an arm injury, so for the rest of the game the target suffers a -1 penalty to hit while shooting, and their fighting in melee is halved as well. Now, if he were at a later date to get a second arm injury, that would also kill him. So we'll have to bear that in mind if that event happens in the future. So I'm putting a token on denoting arm injury, and again that is one of my criticisms really of it's all about the presentation and the layout of the rules and the presentation, but I don't think these open emoji tokens, symbols are, what the author's done is just pick something which is approximately close, so it's an exclamation mark with a hand. That's the closest you could get to something that would look like an arm injury. I think they really should have designed their own appropriate tokens. But, I've got lots of criticisms like that, but, it's not a game changer, because in the literal sense of the word, because I do think this game, as I say, is probably my preferred set of rules for playing Western gunfights now. But it's let down by the presentation and the appearance and the style, the style of the walls. It's and the numerous errors in it. Anyway, on to a new turn. So first out of the bag is red 7, which is D. Snayers, the chap who's rapidly progressing up the table on the left hand side. So what I'm going to do with the D. Snayers, the character there, is I'm just going to imagine that he knows that sniper's in there. How he knows, I don't know, but there's a sniper on the first floor of that red brick building there. So he's going to go round, he's going to roll his dice. I don't think he'd be able to throw anywhere near the correct amount of dice, but he's going to go round the corner and try and go up the steps, into the top floor, into the front room, and shoot at the sniper. So he has rolled 8. Okay, there he is. He didn't get anywhere near the bottom of the steps, so he's got to get the steps, up the steps, into the house, into the front room, so he's got quite a way to go. But while I was moving him around there, I realised I hadn't played the rule about this civilian here. So you roll 2d6, because she's within 6 inches of the ringleader shooting, who you can't see off to the left. She rolls 2d6, moves that number of inches away from the shooting, but if she rolls a double, then she tries to tackle the shooter, knocks him over, knocks him down, and then he's taken off the table. So I think I am going to play it that she might get involved in the fighting. She goes up and hits him with a handbag or something like that. So she rolls a 3 and a 1, so it's not a double. So she's just stood on the table, but 4 inches further away from the shooting over there. And then we're on to the next draw of a token. Okay, so I drew a red star, and then I drew blue number 2, which is the sniper in the window there. Now he can start taking shots now because the firing has commenced, but he is kind of facing that way. So the ringleader is out of his arc of fire, but the gunslinger is within his aim. If this figure here, I'm going to say that this civilian is not in his, not within an inch of his line of fire, because he's firing from the first floor. If he was on the ground floor, he wouldn't be able to take a shot, because you're not allowed to fire within an inch of a civilian. This guy here, it may be within an inch of the target, but you can fire past friendlies. It's assumed that you take precautions to avoid hitting the friendly. So it's slightly strange, but it kind of makes sense. So this is where I begin to kind of struggle with the rules a little bit, and I'm not sure, sometimes how to interpret the rules. But the deputy is armed with a sniper rifle, which has an unlimited range, but it's not clear from the table. So basically, it's not clear from the table whether that means everything is at short or effective range. If you look up on the table, I'm just describing it to you verbally here, but one line up from the sniper rifle there's a machine gun. The machine gun has a short range up to 18 inches and then an effective range over 18 inches. So if they, what they should really have done is put short down as being, so maybe he doesn't have a short range, but he does have and it's an effective range wherever it is. But then why not put under effective range over 0 rather than use the word unlimited? A kind of minor criticism, but yeah, it's sort of thing. When you've got a book that is so badly organised that you have to flick through page after page after page, and you can't use the index because the index just refers you to page after page after page as well. It's the sort of thing that, as I say, lets the rules down a little bit. Now, he has got the accurate ability trait, but also with a sniper rifle you can go down a different route once per turn. So I'll see if I can find this easily in the rules. Sniper rifles, here we are. Once per turn, a model armed with a sniper rifle may spend 2 actions, rather than spend 2 actions, firing a single focused shot. They may not do so if shaken or suppressed. Right, the player rolls to hit as if firing a single shot as usual. They may not unload. That means they can't boost their shots. Right, so it's a strange use of the word unloading. If they hit, they roll twice on the injury table and pick 1 result to give the target, ignoring armour. So if the target survives, they also suffer 2 points of shock. So I'm going to assume that they're hitting at effective range, but the accurate trait gives a +1 to the dice roll, and also the fact that the sniper doesn't have any shock gives another +1, and also finally it's a strike weapon, so if I roll any natural 6s, then that will impart shock to the target as well. Okay, so here we go. So I'm rolling 1 dice because he's got a single shot with a sniper rifle. He's rolled a 5, so it's not a natural 6, but it goes up to 6 because he's got all those bonuses. So it's a hit anyway. And then I roll 2 dice rather than 1 for the hit on the injury table, and I pick the worst one. So he's rolled a 4 and a 6, so I can either impart a leg injury so that the target moves at a D3 rather than D6 for the rest of the game, or I can put a downed on him. I think because the sheriff is downed as well, I think I'm going to put a leg injury onto that guy. Where are we? Find it. Another sort of naff symbol, but that's the symbol for a leg injury. And then he gets 2 shock as well, rather than the normal 1. So he now has 2 shock, which he's got a guts of 2, so 1 more and he'll be shaken, more than 5 and he'll be broken. And if he gets another leg injury, he's killed. So that's the end of the sniper's action. So the focused shot, or whatever it was called. Yeah, focused shot. That takes 2 actions, so I could have chosen to shoot twice, but it might not have been as effective. Okay, so I'm drawing another dice out the bag, and it's another red star. Another dice out the bag, and it's a blue star. And then next one out is number 1. So it's the guy, it's the ringleader over there, gets another action. So he is immediately going to try and shoot at the deputy again. Now this time there are 2 stars on the table for the outlaws. So he starts off, what he's going to do, he starts off with 4 dice. And because he's got dual pistols, he's got the ability, he's got the ability when he uses a star to boost his firepower, what the rules describe as unloading, but I don't think that's the right terminology to use. He gets 2 extra shots rather than 1, and he can go up to double. So he's going to spend both the 2 stars to go up to 4 additional shots. So he's now rolling 8 dice, and this is just his first shooting action, remember. Okay, so here we go. So he is at effective range. There's no short range for dual pistol. So he needs 5s to hit, but he hasn't got any shock, so he's +1 to the dice. And he has rolled 2 5s and a 6, and 3 4s. So they are all hits. So he's got 6 hits. So that deputy is going to be toast, I reckon. Because one of them is bound, I think we're bound to get another arm injury, which will kill him if we don't get a kill outright. Okay, so the deputy is rolling 6 saves out in the open. Where is it? I'm trying to find, here we go, right. 6 saves out in the open. So he's only rolled 1, which is a save. He's rolled 3 6s, which are 3 injuries, and he's rolled a 3 and a 4, which are 2 shocks. So, whatever happens, he's got 5 shocks coming to him. This is what I was saying about you need an awful lot of shock tokens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's got 5 shock tokens adding to the 2 he's got already. So that's taken, I presume that's taken him well over the broken limit, but you don't take broken figures off the table until the cut, and so it gives him an opportunity to try and get rid of some of those. Don't think he'll be able to get rid of that many though. He has actually got a guts of 3, so anything over 6 is going to be broken. Anyway, we'll see where we go. Anyway, he's got 3 rolls on the injury table, so he might die at this point anyway. So he's rolled 1, 2 and 6, and 1 is dead. So he's immediately taken off of the table, but that has repercussions on the morale of the squad, which I'll have to run through next. Right, so for every circumstance that may have occurred, you roll once on the bad thing happens table. So there are several things on here, so you don't just roll once. In this case, you're I'm going to be rolling a couple of times for see how much the law side's morale diminishes. So the first thing that's happened is that he is a rank 2 model, and so you have to roll a 1d6 under that line for a rank 2 model that breaks or dies. And he's only rolled a 1, but that is 1 reduction in the squad's morale. And then also squad suffers its first death, so that applies. So again, I roll a d6 and I've rolled a 3 this time, and this is a more well, no, it's not more. It's a different set of qualifiers, factors. So again, they've lost another 1 morale, and that is they are the only 2. So they've gone down 2 morale effectively. But that was only the first action. Remember, he's got 2 actions per activation, so he can now move freely through the door into the bank. And he's rolled a 5, so he can move 5 inches. I think that will get him just into the doorway, just inside maybe. So there we go, he's just burst through the door, and it's the beginning of the hold-up. Okay, so the next token out of the bag was the cut, so that turn is over very swiftly. The law have spent all their stars already, but sorry, no, the outlaws have, but the law have got 1 star. So the obvious thing to do, you can activate a figure with 1 star now rather than with 2. Unactivated, that is. So I'm going to activate the sheriff. So his first action has to be to remove the downed token, and his second will be to shoot at the gunslinger. If he can inflict another leg injury, then he kills him. But anyway, it's the sensible thing to do. So in this case, the sheriff doesn't have dual pistols, he only has pistol. So that is firing 2 shots, so 2 dice, and it's short range, so he's hitting on 4s. He has no shock, so he gets a +1, and I think that's everything we have to take into account. So he's rolling 2 dice, hitting on 4s with a +1. He rolls 4 and a 3, so the 3 goes up to 4, the 4 goes up to 5. Now then, he's firing a spray weapon, so every unmodified 6 also hits the nearest enemy within 3 inches. There isn't any. Every unmodified 1, so there wasn't, instead hits the nearest civilian. I thought that was strange at first. I'll just stop at this point just to say another thing about the writing, but I think that's intentional. If you roll an unmodified 6, you also hit the nearest enemy, but if you roll an unmodified 1, you instead hit the nearest civilian. That kind of makes sense because if you roll a 6, you hit 2 targets rather than 1. If you rolled a 1, you would have missed your target, but instead you hit a civilian. So yeah, that makes sense. Within 1 inch of the line of fire, or 3 inches of the target. So I'm not counting the horses. So this guy here, I don't know if you can see him on the camera. No. There's a guy there, but he's about 4 inches away. So even if he had rolled a 1, he wouldn't have hit him. So anyway, we've got 2 hits. So we have to roll on the injury table now. It's out in the open. So he's rolled a 3 and a 1. The 1 is a save. The 3 is another shock. So the gunslinger has now got 3 shock. It doesn't exceed his doesn't exceed the limit. He needs to have 5 to be broken because he's got guts of 2. So that is the end of that turn, and we go back and start drawing tokens out of the bag again. Okay, now as it happens, the first token I've drawn out of the bag is number 2, red number 2, which is this guy. So I could rally 2 shock off for 2 actions. I could rally 1 shock off and yeah, let's see what happens. So I'm gonna, first action is to rally, so I'll take 1 shock off. Second action is I'm going to fire. He's also got dual pistols, so I can roll 4 dice. I haven't got any stars to spend on boosting his firepower, and it's effective range because dual pistols don't have short range. So I need 5s to hit. It doesn't get the bonus because he's got shock token, so he doesn't get +1. Got a 6 and a 5. So 2 hits. If he hadn't had any shock, he would have got 4 hits because he threw 2 4s as well. Okay, so the sheriff has to roll twice on the saving throw table, and he's rolled a 2 and a 4, which is 2 shock. But nothing else, so there's 1 shock. We've just got to put 1 more on. So that confrontation between the gunslinger and the sheriff is kind of even. The gunslinger is down by a leg injury. Okay, next token out of the bag then. But I like the way this, I mean, I'm taking my time with this and looking things up, but I like the way it flows very swiftly. There's nice flow to the game. And I like, you know, it's very derivative of some other Too Fat Lardy games, which I actually don't, I don't rate Sharp Practice at all, and this is very similar to Sharp Practice. But the big difference with this is that you are actually playing a proper skirmish game, rather than moving units around as though it was a skirmish game. But anyway, I won't go into my soapbox about the reasons why I don't like Sharp Practice. But I do like the same mechanisms in this game. Okay, I've just drawn blue 5, which is the guy that was killed. So his number can be removed. So I'm drawing again, and I've drawn red 3, which is Theophilus Sauter, who is the guy, where is he, over here, making his way round to the back of the bank. So I'm just going to roll 2 movements for him. So he rolls a 4 and a 3, so he's going to move 7 inches closer to the bank. Right, there we go. Round the corner there, you can't see it from this angle, but there's a back door to the bank, so that's what he's heading for. Right, so I've just drawn a blue star and then blue number 2, which is the sniper on the upper floor of that window again. So this is the opportunity now to finish off the gunslinger firing down at him. So he's going to do that same thing again of firing a focused shot, because if he rolls on the injury table and gets the option to choose a leg injury, he will pick the leg injury, and that will kill the gunslinger who already has a leg injury. So he's accurate, so it's +1 to the dice. So he needs, I reckon he needs 5s, and he's only rolled a 2. So he misses with that shot. Opportunity gone. Next out of the dice is another blue star. So they now have 2 blue stars. And then next out of the bag is a red star. So 1 more star and a random event is generated. No, it's a number 5 for red. Red 5 is Banks Stilson, who is this guy down here, him. So he's going to do a run following Theophilus. Going to make 2 run movements, or 2 move actions, 2 dice, total of 5. Not very impressive. It gets him to about there. Next out of the bag, red number 1. Right, here we go. So some action in the bank. So inside the bank, Carl Talbot is making his way towards the safe room. I could get him to sprint, but if he does that, he picks up shock. It makes his shooting at this guy even less effective, or less effective. So I think what I'm going to do is to move him once to begin with. We'll see how far he gets. So only 2 inches. So that will take him. The door is here. There we go, it does open. So it doesn't even take him through the door. But there's another door here, and then that's the door in. So I don't want him to go to that door, because if he does that, he can be seen by the guy with the shotgun. So I'm going to roll, but say whatever he rolls, he mustn't go further than that point there. Because if he rolled a 6, yeah, 6 might take him so that he's in sight. So that is the rule, that if you roll and you don't don't make a statement about where he's going to stop, you have to move the whole distance. So if he were to roll a 6, he would be in sight. He's only rolled a 2 as it happens. So he's only going to, I reckon he's going to get to just about beyond that door there. Okay, next dice out of the bag then is, next token out of the bag, I keep saying dice. So I've got a bolt action in mind. Red number 6, which is Rice McGee. He's over here. Show you. Okay, so Rice McGee here is just going to go as far as he can along the back of those buildings. I'm not going to sprint him or anything. So he's rolled 10. There's the tape measure on the other side of the room as usual. So 10 will take him to about there. Okay, next out of the bag is a red star. Then a red star. And then a blue star. Right, so 3 stars in a row mean there's a random event that happens to the last figure activated, which was, what was his name, Rice McGee, was it? Okay, so he moved, so you rolled on the neutral random event table. You roll 2 dice, rolled a 6, which is go, go, go. This is that same one. The player picks the nearest friendly jump off and places it behind the nearest cover. Well, the nearest jump off does happen to be in that saloon that he's just going by, so it has no effect. That's a little bit disappointing, I think, that random event, because it's only really going to have an effect at the end of the game. I don't think you can leave the table. Maybe you can. If you could leave the table by a jump off point, then it would be very important, because the jump off point is a lot closer to the bank. Yeah, while I look through, I'm going to turn the camera off, but this repeats my point about how it's very difficult to find things that you might want to look up in this book. So I'll just turn the camera off for a second. Yeah, as far as I can see, and I think I'm correct in this, is that the jump off points are only used to bring tables onto the table. So that random event is of no use once all the figures are on the table. Anyway, let's carry on with another dice, another token out the bag, and this time it is blue number 1, which is the sheriff. Okay, so the sheriff is going to shoot at the gunslinger. He rolls 2 dice because he's just got pistol, but it's short range, so he needs 4s to hit. Doesn't get a +1 because he's got some shock, and he's rolled a 5 and a 3, so he's got 1 hit, which the gunslinger attempts to save by rolling a 4, so the gunslinger has another shock token. Okay, recording went wrong there somehow. For the second action, the sheriff hit the gunslinger with shooting again, caused him an injury which made him go down, so he's now got 4 shock, a leg injury, and he's downed, so he's quite vulnerable. Right, now the next to be activated is blue number 3, which is Otti Deneen with the shotgun in the safe room of the bank. I don't want him to move because he's in the perfect place, but now that the shooting has begun, I can put him on Overwatch, so I'll have to find the appropriate token for that. But he is now going to go on Overwatch, and that means that if any enemy figure moves within his line of fire, he can immediately take a shot at them. The next token out of the bag was a red star. That's given the outlaws 4 red stars, which means they can spend those 4 stars to activate a figure that has already activated. So what I'm going to attempt to do is to move the ringleader up to the doorway so that he's facing at the guy with the shotgun and shoot at him, but as soon as he appears in the doorway, this chap is on Overwatch, so he can shoot at him first. So let's see if I can reach the doorway with a dice roll first of all for the first action of the activation. Yeah, he's rolled a 6, so he can easily get to the doorway. So he turns the corner and is immediately pelted by Otti Deneen with his shotgun, which rolls 3 dice, short range, so he doesn't have any shock, so he's +1, so at close range he'd be hitting on 4s, +1. Don't think he's got any. Just check. No, he hasn't got any accuracy traits or anything like that. So it's 3 dice hitting on 4s with a +1. So they all hit. So it's double shock at close range. So if he gets any shock, he's now throwing 3 saving rolls. So he's got 2 2s and a 4. So that is 3 shock normally. So that means that the ringleader is on 6 shot. 6 shock rather than 1 shot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I'll leave them just outside the building because they're a little bit difficult to retrieve sometimes. Right, so not good for the ringleader, but at least now he can make his shot back. So he's got 1 shooting action, he's got dual pistols, he hasn't got any stars to spend on uploading now. He has got shock now. That's interesting, because if he's got 6, his guts are 3, so he is effectively shaken now, so he only gets 1 activation. So I think that prevents him from shooting, because he's down to 1 activation, 1 action per activation. So I think I'm not going to allow him to shoot. I think that's the right way to play that. So guy with the shotgun's doing his job well, guarding the safe. Next out of the bag is Red 7, which is D Snayers, so he's going to continue with his mission to assassinate the sniper on the top floor of that building. So he's going to move twice, 2d6, he moves a total of 8 inches. But there's the tape measure. He moved 2 4s. So the first 4, I would say, takes him to the foot of the stairs. So the other dice is spent moving to the top of the stairs. So he's not there yet, but he's getting there. Okay, the next taken out of the bag is another blue star, which gives the law 4 blue stars now. So I think before another token's drawn out of the bag, they're going to spend those 4 stars to activate the chap with the shotgun again, because 4 stars allow you to reactivate a model that's already been activated. So he is now going to take another 2 shots, because it's 1 activation is 2 actions. So he's going to take 2 shots with his shotgun at the ringleader and hopefully finish him off. And I'll confess at this point that I was forgetting that inside the building it's -1 cover, or it's light cover, so I should have been rolling on that rather than out in the open, but I don't think it will make a vast amount of difference. So he's rolling 3, I think it's 3 dice for a shotgun. Yeah, 3 dice for a shotgun, and it's close range, so hitting on 4s. He has no shock, so it's +1, but then oh no, the cover comes in later. The cover comes in with the saving roll. Yeah, so it's +1s, 3 dice, 4s to hit. And he's rolled 6, 5, and 2. So the 6 and the 5 hit. It's a spray weapon rather than a strike, so that natural 6 doesn't matter. So now I'm rolling 2 saves in light cover. I rolled 2 5s, which is 2 shocks. So 2 more shocks. This will almost certainly mean the end of the outlaw ringleader at the end of this turn. So I think he's now got 8 shock, but we've still got another second round of shooting. So 3 dice, it was +1s, wasn't it, I think, if I remember correctly. I've rolled a 1 and a 2, no good, and a 4, so that's 1 hit. Saving roll is a 4, which in light cover is 1 more shock. So I think that was worth doing because I can't see any way of the ringleader being able to remove so many shock tokens now. So he'll come off at the end of this turn, and that will have a dramatic effect on the Outlaws' morale. Okay, I drew a blue star and then red number 4, which is Widdenlee's, this chap here. He's going to move twice, so he rolls double 6, so he's going to move 12 inches. So that means he's overtaken the other chap. He gets to about here. So he's got to there. So they're all heading towards the back door of the bank by the look of it. Right, next token. Cut. Okay, so we've got the cut. First of all, there's 1 blue star on the table, which means that the loyal side can activate an unactivated model, and the only one hasn't been activated is number 4, who is Alan Borneo. Oh yeah, we haven't heard much from him. Okay, so he is now he's upstairs in the, let me show you. He's upstairs in the sheriff's office, just by the door there. So he really hasn't got much in the way of a target any longer. So I'm going to move him to the head of the stairs, first of all. So he's rolled 3 inches, so he gets to the head of the stairs, and then he spends his other action dice to go down to the bottom of the steps. Let's show you that on camera. There we go. So first of all he goes to the top of the steps, another dice takes him to the bottom, and he's facing in that direction, so he is able to shoot at this chap. I think he'd be in range. Okay, now next thing you do is remove the broken models. So the gunslinger's got 4, so he's not quite broken yet, but the ringleader has a guts of 3 and he's got well over 6 shock markers, so that means he comes off the table, and that will influence the squad's morale. Right, so there are certain things we now have to roll on the bad things happen table for the Outlaws. First thing is that Carl Talbot was a rank 3 model, so going to lose morale for that. You roll a d6, and in this circumstance he loses, or the Outlaws lose 2 morale. The squad has suffered its first death, so you roll for that, and it's a 3, which means you go down another 1 morale, and the squad has lost its leader, so you have to roll for that. And it's a 2, which is another 1 morale. So we're now down in the red zone for morale, so we have to remove 1 red star from the pack, as well as red number 1, because that player is out of the play now. So 1 red star and red number 1, both removed. He's out of the game, and everything else goes back in the bag, ready for the next turn. Start of the next turn, and I draw blue 3, which is Otto Janine, the guy in the bank there, guarding the safe with his shotgun. So I'm going to immediately put him back onto Overwatch, which is the ideal situation, so he can shoot at anything that comes within his sight. Next out of the bag is Rice McGee, and I'm thinking I might get him to, rather than carry on towards the bank, because I've got at least one figure close to the bank, one out there, he's going to sneak down this alleyway here and see if he can get within range of the sheriff. You can't see in this shot, but he might be able to get a shot off on the sheriff. So his first move is only 2 inches, so that's not going to help. So that will take him to about there, we'll say. And then he'll make a second move, 6 inches, that's more like it. But that's the end of his activation now, but at least I'll take him to about here. I'll just show you that from this angle. Right, there he is. So you're not allowed to measure what's he armed with. He's just got a pistol, and the pistol can shoot up to 12 inches, so I reckon he's within a foot, where he can't fire at this moment in time anyway. So yeah, on to the next token to be drawn. Okay, end of the turn. I drew the cut symbol, and there are no stars out yet. I came quite early in the turn, so no stars out yet, so I can't activate any unactivated figures. So there aren't any more broken figures to take off the table, so we just go back to putting everything back in the original bag, giving it a shake, starting again. And the first one I take out this time is red number 7, which is D. Snayers again. Okay, so D. Snayers is the guy who is trying to sneak up on the sniper. So this chap at the top of the stairs here. So he's got to negotiate his way through a few rooms, but I think he can do it. I reckon he can do it in one go. Let's see. So his first move, he rolls a 5. So 5 will actually take him through, I reckon he gets to about there. Now, I don't know whether you can see that. Yeah, you can't see the position of the sniper. Let me move the camera. So D. Snayer bursts into the room. He's got one action left, so he's going to take a shot at, I think his name's Gunnels Freeman, something like that. Let's have a look. Fremont Gunnels. So the D is only armed with a pistol, so he gets 2 shots. He hasn't got any shock, it's close range. So he's hitting on 4s with a +1. His dice roll, but oh yeah, he's in light cover, but that'll come in with the saving rolls. So here we go, let's see what he gets. He rolls a 6. It's a spray weapon, so it doesn't matter about the natural 6. And a 3, which goes up to 4, so he's got 2 hits. Fremont Gunnels gets 2 saving rolls in light cover, and he rolls a 6 and a 4. So he's 1 shock, 1 injury. So he's got 2 shock at the moment, 1 for the injury, 1 for the shock. And he has to roll on the injury table. Put those in there so I keep track of it. He has to roll on the injury table in light, oh no, yeah, on the injury table, and he rolls a 6, which is downed. So he's, we put one of those NAF tokens against him to represent the fact that he's downed. So his first action is going to have to be to remove that marker when he actually gets to move. Okay, next out of the bag came a blue star, and then next out of the bag, would you believe it, came the cut symbol again. So the blue star allows the law to activate one unactivated figure so far. So I've got a choice here. I could either removed that downed marker from Fremont Gunnels, and then his second action would be to turn, but he wouldn't be able to, turning is a movement, so he wouldn't then be able to shoot back at these snares, but he is in a very precarious situation there at the moment. Or I think what I will do over here is the sheriff is going to be activated, and he's going to take, he will take 2 shots at the gunslinger, and the chances are that will impart another shock onto him, and he will have to come off because it's the end of the turn, and if he breaks he'll be removed. So I think that is the better thing to do. So the sheriff is being activated using the blue star. I think you can see that, yeah, see it all there. So the sheriff has got pistols, he's firing 2 shots at short range. He has shock, so he doesn't get a +1 bonus, so he's hitting on 4s without any sort of bonus. And he rolls a 6 and a 1, so he's got 1 hit for this first round of shooting. The gunslinger, Emmett Nevitt, is out in the open. He rolls a save, and he rolls a 5, which is another shock. So that will do it, but let's see if we can kill him outright with the second burst of shooting. So 2 6s, rolling 2 1s, so they're misses. But that is the end of the sequence for the cut. So he is now broken, so he's going to come off the table. So once again we have to roll on the bad things happen table. So the gunslinger Emmett Nevitt was a rank 2 model. So that means I've rolled a 2, that means we lose 2 more morale points. Very close to 0. The law will win the game if that's the case. Not his first death, not his, yes, that's all we do. So when we're down to 2, we should have removed 3 stars. So I'll take another 2 stars out of the bag if I can find it. Put it somewhere. Where, oh, there it is. Okay, so now the outlaws only have 1 star in the bag, so that means that they're only going to be able to use that at the end of each turn, because normally you need 2 stars at least to activate. I suppose they could use it to what the rules refer to as unloading a weapon, which is actually sort of boosting the firepower. But anyway, he's off the table. He was number 2, so I can take his number out of the bag as well. And then we're on to next turn, if I can get all the tokens back in the bag. Give it a shake and draw the next token, which is a blue star. And the next one after that is red 3, which is Theophilus Sauter. Okay, so this is Theophilus Sauter. I think really the Outlaws have got very little chance of getting the loot off the table. I'm still going to go for it. So he's going to move twice. Maybe sprint as well. Sprint twice, so you have 2 shock. So I'm rolling 4 dice. So I've got a total of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 inches. You know what? I thought that was Theophilus Sauter. This is Theophilus Sauter. So 13 inches might actually even get him into the bank. Right, it's interesting. Now 13 inches does indeed not only get him through the back door of the bank, gets him through these 2 doors, so he's not quite at an inch up to the deputy with a shotgun, who is still on Overwatch. Now I've checked this, and the Overwatch only comes off if you use it, and I've put Overwatch on him twice now and only used it once, so it still applies. Or if he makes an action, which he hasn't done, or if the scene ends. Now the scene ending only happens if you draw the cut token out of the bag at the very beginning, so it's the first token out of the bag. That hasn't happened, so the scene isn't over, so he's still on Overwatch, which means he is entitled now to blast his shotgun off at Theophilus Sauter. So he rolls 3d6, +1 to hit, short range, double shock if he hits at close range. So he's got 3 hits, because he only used 4s, and he's rolled 4s and 3s, so he's got +1. Okay, so 3 hits, it's in light cover. The 3 saves are 2, 3 and 4, which 2 is saved, 3 and 4 are 2 more shocks. That means Theophilus Sauter now has 4 shocks, and he's only got guts of 2, so he's certainly shaken. 1 more and he'd be broken. So not in a terribly good condition, but at least he's still alive, has a chance maybe to get his rifle shot off at the deputy. We'll see. Okay, this is interesting. So I drew a blue star, and then I drew blue number 3, which is Otti Deneen. Now what I should have done a second ago was remove the Overwatch, because that was a deferred action from earlier, and having used it, you take that off. But he can now activate again, so he can now take 2 shots at this poor chap again, who is going to get blown away, I think. So the first, he rolls 3 shots with a +1, hitting on 4s. So he's got 2 hits, saving in light cover. 2 6s is 2 injuries, so that's 2 shock, but it's doubled up to 4 shock because it's a shotgun. And then we're rolling twice on the injury table. Three and a 4. 3 is an arm injury, 4 is a leg injury. Okay, so that was only the first one, wasn't it? We've still got 1 more action to take, so we'll do that again. I think he's bound to die. Okay, I've got 2 5s, which are 2 hits, and a 2, which is a miss. So rolling twice to save. 6 and a 2. The 2 is saved. The 6 is another injury, which means another 2 shock. And rolling on the injury table now, so it's highly unlikely that he's not going to be killed. So rolling on the injury table. Oh, rolling on. I've rolled a 6, so he's down. So I'll have to find another down marker, put that on him, but he's still alive, but he's not going to last, I don't think. Just drawn blue 4, which is Alan Bournier here, so he's going to move around this way to try and block off the 2 outlaws that are still behind the sheriff's office. So his first move is 2 inches, his second move is 6 inches, so he can move 8 inches. Don't think he's going to get him anywhere. 8 inches. I think that takes him to the corner, so he's still not in sight of the outlaws there. Next out of the bag is blue number 1, which is the sheriff. So the tokens are coming out favouring the law at the moment. He wants to tackle this outlaw here, but he's facing away from him, so his first action will have to be to turn and move towards him. So he's rolled 5. So 5 inches will take him to about here. So he's just about an inch away from that civilian, so he can do that. But when he starts firing now, all these civilians, they don't tackle lawmen in the way that they would tackle outlaws, so they would just run away from the gunfire. So they're all these civilians are going to move now. So he's got pistol. I think it's just an ordinary pistol. Yeah, pistol. So he's rolling 2 dice at short range. He's got 2 shock. I forgot to take with him, so he doesn't get a +1. So he's hitting on 4s, and he gets a 5 and a 2. So he's got 1 hit for his. This is his second action. 1 hit in the open, saving. Rolled a 1. The outlaw saves it. So that's the end of the sheriff's turn. But the gunfire. The woman on her own moves 8 inches away in that direction, and the crowd, I think, behave in the same way. Civilian crowds. Oh, that's interesting. If a civilian crowd move over a model, they suffer 2 points of shock and are downed. So that could, that could be interesting if they did mob a figure, but they're not going to. They're going to move 9 inches this way. So they all head off with their beer, running away from the shooting, including the bartender. So they're all down there now. Okay, and then next token out of the bag is cut. Right, let's think about this. Okay, so there are 2 blue stars out in play, which means that the law can activate 2 models that have so far been unactivated this turn. There is only 1, so 1 star is going to get wasted. But the 1 figure that hasn't been activated so far is Fremont Gunnels, who is still pointing his rifle out of the window. So he can be activated. His first action will be to remove the downed marker, and his second action will be to turn to face his attacker. And that is all that he can do. He can't shoot, because that will be a third action. Then the other thing that will now happen, I can take the lid off the roof off the bank here, is that this figure here, Theophilus Sauter, is well over his break point, so he comes off the table. So he is also dead. So we now have to roll on the morale chart again. This may end the game if the Outlaw's morale goes down to 0. Right, so Theophilus Sauter is a rank 1 model. This still could result in loss of 3 morale points, which means that the Outlaws have lost, but let's see. So you roll a d6, yeah, rolled a 6, which is 3 morale down, which is 0, which means the Outlaws automatically lose the game. So there we are, that's the end of the game. I think it produces really good narrative games, so from that point of view I can highly recommend Packing Heat. I think it would work equally well for the Prohibition era. I'm not so sure about World War II. I have bought the supplement for the Pacific because I've got both US Marines and Japanese, so theoretically I could play it, but I just don't feel that World War II combat or even modern combat is identical to this kind of skirmish. You know, I think it's much more about teamwork, coordination between different specialities, all that kind of thing. So I don't think it would have, but for the Wild West, I think it's absolutely ideal. I think it works really well as a mechanism, but the same mechanism doesn't produce a realistic game if you're playing it using sharp practice. I won't go on about that anymore because you all know my feelings about sharp practice and so-called skirmish games, which are just really battles where you put, you know, sort of a couple of dozen figures down on the table and pretend you're fighting Waterloo again. And the thing that really lets these rules down, which I went on a lot about in this video that I have ditched now because it was too long and it was getting tedious in a way with all my discoveries of errata in the books. The thing that lets it down is that I think they've relied on artificial intelligence to proofread it and to make the index and maybe even to lay the pages out, and the pages are laid out in a really odd way. For instance, the injury table is on page 15 and the shooting and melee start at page 21. So you work through how you shoot and then you look for the injury table and you assume that you look forward, but you actually have to go back in the book. You know, it's easier off of the quick reaction sheet because they're both adjacent to one another, but things like that, I'm sure it was printed in the wrong order. There was some kind of mix-up there, and so many mistakes that I haven't mentioned, you know, almost as many as those of you who bought Cruel Seas, almost as many as were in that book, although it's a different, I think it's a different publisher. It does have a very similar kind of print to it, but it's a different games company. But yeah, I think that sort of doesn't spoil it because this is going to be a favourite game of mine from now on, but it's certainly, you know, it lets it down in a way. But the games themselves I think are really good fun. I'm looking forward to playing more of this. Anyway, I'll stop there. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. See you on the next video. Bye for now.